guys, it's Cyrene back here for another episode, and today we're gonna get a little bit personal.
Oh boy.
I got my producer Cam with me here again, and I'm so happy to have you. It's always fun to have someone that, you know, kind of conversates with me, because when I'm just talking and it's just me, sometimes I start to wonder if I'm just blabbing and I'm not making any sense.
No, you always make sense, but it's definitely difficult to just talk for 30 minutes.
It is. I'm finding that, yes.
Yeah, definitely.
But you're great. I love having you on here.
Oh, thanks. You're the great one.
Oh, the compliments. The compliments are coming in. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like I've been giving you guys lots of tips. I've been giving you tricks. And I want you guys to know that I'm a human too. And I have been through a lot of these same things that I'm giving you tips on. I have had, you know, my own personal real estate journeys. I really believe that, you know, as a real estate agent, our job is not just to help you find a house or to help you sell a house. Our job is to help you build wealth and to help build your real estate portfolio over a period of time. We're here to help you with your investments, or if you're gonna, you know, decide to rent something out. We're here to give advice for all those types of things. We're not just here to help you buy or sell one property. I always, you know, tell my clients, like, I'm gonna be your agent for life, and I'm gonna walk you through all these different things. And one thing that's great is that I've been through a lot of them personally, so I can empathize with what you guys are going through. I don't just, you know, help you sell and I'm just looking from the other side of the street or whatever. I've had personal experience with this stuff, and yeah.
You've been there.
Been there, done that, guys. And I've made some mistakes myself.
Well, we want to know the mistakes, so we don't
course
make
you do.
them. But, I mean, I think you should start from the beginning. Tell us your first purchase as a home buyer.
Oh, from the beginning.
Remember the time we were all younger and thinner and...
Okay, well, so it's gonna get real personal, I guess. I might as well just go for it, yeah?
Well, I mean, you don't overshare, you know, but, you know, share enough so that we know what's going on.
Hey, they want some oversharing.
I'm an oversharer, you know this.
So, you know, briefly, kind of just about me, you know, before I was a real estate agent, you know, when I bought my first house, the first house that I bought was through down payment assistance programs. At the time, I was living in a low-income housing project, and I had my daughter. She was very young, and you know, single mom. And I had this program that I went through, and they not only taught me about saving and budgeting and all this stuff, but they kind of tricked me into buying a house in a good way, like for my own good. Because I didn't
challenged you.
Well, I didn't know any better. I was a complete knucklehead, right? So I would, you know, credit scores wasn't something that I thought were important. You know, I mean, back then, you know, we were poor. It was just getting through the next day and you know, putting food on the table. It wasn't thinking or worrying about credit scores or saving or budgeting. But they put me through a lot of classes that I well, in order to live there, you had to go through these classes.
Well, that's kind of
so
cool, I think.
You know, and they're an amazing nonprofit. I hope to be able to have them on the show at some point, and they can talk about the programs that they have.
That would be awesome. So they still exist. This program still exists.
And
how do people find them?
Well, I'm still partnered with them, and you can give me a call, 1-800-440-7566, 1-800-440-7566. I'm partnered with a couple different nonprofits. So if you are, you know, they do credit counseling for free. They do a lot of different stuff. They have health clinics. They have housing projects that have schools attached to them. Like, I could go on and on. But yeah, 1-800-440-7566. I'll hook you up. So I went through this program, and within 3 years, I had saved $10,000, which was like the most money I'd ever seen in my life. And next thing I know, I find myself in this home buying workshop. And
Ooh.
Yeah, these workshops that I teach, and I do teach sometimes for this nonprofit, which is another story, but it kind of, the whole thing came full circle, which is just, it's beautiful that all that happened. So
So you're in this home buying class.
I'm in this home buying class, and I'm sitting there like twiddling my hair, going, okay, I'm just here because they're making me be here. And the next thing I know, I'm starting to get pre-approved for a loan.
Ooh, now it gets interesting.
And I'm like, why do you need my social security number? Why do you want to know how much money I have in the bank? What's that all about, right? And I was so paranoid, thinking like...
Did you want to purchase a home? Did you want to be a home buyer?
Well, I mean, at that time, it seemed like a good idea, but I didn't have... I just kind of was going with the flow.
Didn't have a plan.
No, I just kind of was going with the flow, and it seemed like, okay... Well, shoot, because I didn't think I could buy a house. The whole thing was like, to me, it was like, okay, cool, yeah, let's apply for a loan. It was a big joke to me, because I never in my wildest dreams thought somebody would give me a loan for that much money.
But then when you got it, you realized what you were supposed to do with it, right? Or they helped you with that?
I was a freaking basket case, pain in the butt, complete
You still
pain in the
are.
butt.
No, I'm just kidding.
I am still a pain in the butt.
No,
I'm not really
no.
a basket case.
In a good way.
But I got pre-approved, and I was like, wow, okay, I can have that much money. And then I started working with an agent and looking at houses, and then it started getting real, and I was like, whoa, we went through, and that process, we actually put offers. It was in 2008, and the market was just beginning to tank. And we put offers on a lot of different properties that we did not get. Did you have one that you were like heartbroken over, or you never got really that attached? Well, my personality is, heartbreak isn't really in my...
Oh, you just
It's not really in my code.
Oh, okay.
It's not really in my makeup. So, if you're breaking my heart, then, man, I don't know what to tell you.
Okay.
So, anyway, we did our home inspection, and it was a complete nightmare. The house had a lot of problems, and we didn't have money, I didn't have money to fix all that stuff after we closed. So we asked the seller to fix everything, and they didn't agree.
So what happens then?
Well, there were things like the shower pan was leaking under the house. Ooh. And there were pipes that were leaking, and some of the windows were there was like some big problems with the windows, and some stuff that just like big safety issues.
Major issues, sounds like.
Yeah, so we asked the seller to do some of that stuff, and they refused. And we ended up having to cancel because they just wouldn't work with us on it.
How often do you think that happens in real life?
I don't see that happen that much, honestly.
Okay.
For the most part, sellers are pretty reasonable. They understand that their house has an issue. I mean, if someone's asking you to fix a leaking water and then you say no, you're just a jerk. Like there's water leaking.
Right.
So anyway, we started looking again for another property. And this time I found one that was, it was on a busy street. It was a townhouse. But it was a good size. It was 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath. It had an attached garage. And at that time, the list price was $275,000.
Wow.
Yeah, it's worth more than double that now. So real estate, good investments. You want to learn about investments? Give me a call, 1-800-440-7566. Or you can look me up on Instagram, Cyrene Properties, Cyrene Properties. Follow me on Facebook, or you can go to my YouTube page. There's lots of ways to find me. If you just Google my name, you'll find me. So the house it was a foreclosure, okay? Because this is 2008, these houses are starting to foreclose. But the prices hadn't gone down as drastically. Like I bought kind of at the wrong time, but I'll talk about that in a second. So the house had wallpaper. It smelled...
Cute wallpaper?
No. It smelled like cat pee.
Ooh,
and
yum.
Yes. And it was like had the most horrible yellow paint everywhere. So what I did was, but here's the things that were important, right? You guys got to remember, I only had $10,000 and I was getting some down payment assistance and stuff like that. So the house had to make sense as far as it was big enough to suit my family. It had enough space. It was close enough to my daughter's school. And it was, stuff that I could fix easily.
Right. Sometimes you have to look past the cosmetic issues.
Yes.
And look at the bones. Like
yes.
You always hear good bones.
Yes.
So it worked for you. It checked, you're not going to check all the boxes, right? But you'll check most of the boxes when you're looking for a property.
Yes, and the most important thing about the house was that I could afford the payment. So, if you guys are out there looking for a property, like, keep in mind that, you need to be able to afford the payment. Don't overshoot because you're trying to keep up with the Joneses. You need to really want to keep your house, right? And I'll talk about that a little bit. So I ended up getting an escrow. I was so annoying. I would call the lender every day and yell at him and ask him why everything was taking so long.
Yell at him?
Oh yes, I would yell at him. I would yell at my agent. I would yell at everybody because I thought they were all trying to screw me over, right? I was so paranoid. I thought everyone was going to try to screw me over and steal my earnest money deposit, which we talked about last week, right? And how buyers get really nervous about that, and so did I. I was like, what is going on? Oh. And when I'm explaining things to buyers, one thing I always try to keep in mind is this is the first time they're done this, so a lot of the things that I'm explaining are like speaking another language. And unfortunately for me, in my first experience, my agent wasn't the best in explaining what was going on. I think she was just kind of over me because I was a pain in the butt.
You were yelling at her every day?
I didn't really yell at her too much, but I was like, what is going on? Because I didn't know what was coming next. Like, they did a very poor job of explaining. So I ended up getting the house though. We closed the escrow and
But wait, how was that feeling when they said you got it, or when they put that key in your hand? Were you in disbelief? I mean, how did you feel? That had to feel amazing.
It did, especially because I moved and bought a house from, like my house before that was a low-income housing project. And here I was, a homeowner, and I had come from some very, shall we say, humble beginnings. So it was huge. Like, I never ever I thought that was for other people. I didn't think it was for me. I thought that was something other people did. It was never on my radar. And like I said, I owe a lot to that nonprofit because they just kind of like, they tricked me into doing what was my, something that was best for myself.
Right.
And it really did, guys. If you're thinking of buying and you think it's not for you, or you think you can't do it, I was the biggest knucklehead. I was so terrible. You will never be as crazy as I was, I promise you, because I'm going to walk you through it. But if you're out there thinking that you can't buy, or it's not for you, or you need 20% down, or you don't have enough money, or your credit's not good enough, freaking call me, okay? Because I've been there. Give me a call, 1-800-440-7566. Let's talk about it. I talked to a girl yesterday who called, and she had a plethora of things that needed to be done before she can buy. But I'm working with the client right now also, and that's what I'm here for. You don't need to be ready, okay? I'm your consultant. I'm here to help you plan. So you don't need to be, I'm not ready, I'm not calling Cyrene. No, I'm not ready yet. I need to know how to get ready. I'm gonna call Cyrene. So you really have to plan for it, and
it takes months, right? Months.
Well, if it's your first time, yeah, I mean, it could take months. And a lot of people are like, well, I've been thinking about it. I see them make a lot of mistakes because they didn't reach out soon enough. And then they make mistakes, and that could have been easily avoided. So if you're even thinking about it or want just information, look, guys, I'm not desperate for your business. I'm not going to try to shark you into something. So I'm here to help. I'm a call consultant. I'm your friend. I'm here to help you with this stuff. So anyways, it changed the trajectory of my life. It really did.
Being a homeowner.
Yes. And I also am extremely passionate about people owning homes in general because it strengthens our communities, and it puts the community back in the hands of the people instead of, a bunch of apartment complexes that are run by landlords or whatever else, right? People who own in their community take better care of their community. It strengthens their life, right? And I think there's a lot of people out there that probably could buy a house right now that just don't have the information, and they think it's for other people, right? And so they continue to rent and continue to spend money and continue to just throw it away and pay for somebody else's dream when they could be making their own, because there's so many benefits in owning a home. I mean, it's a tax write-off, and it's something to leave to your children, and it's just, it's huge. So
it's an investment.
It is an investment
in yourself and your family.
yeah, it was huge for us. So I can't thank the nonprofit enough, and I am super proud of myself for doing that. It was scary. It was really scary, and I was risking the most money I'd ever had, you know?
It's a very inspiring story.
Thank you.
And I like hearing it. So now you're in this house with cat pee and yellow walls and ugly wallpaper.
Yeah. So tore out all the carpet, sealed all the floors, and then recarpeted. The downstairs didn't have carpet, just the upstairs. And then ripped out the wallpaper, gave the whole thing a paint job, and it was fine.
And how long did you live there?
8 years.
Okay. Happy times?
Yeah, I lived there for quite a while. It was like a 5-year plan, you know, but then the housing market crashed. So after I moved in, shortly after, you know, all of a sudden my house was underwater.
So you were upside down?
Yeah, I was upside down. But
what do you do about that? I'm sure that happens to people.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not an idiot, okay? And so one thing about me is I'm not just gonna do stuff because society is doing it, right?
You're not impulsive.
I wouldn't go that far, but but I'm saying, like, just because, oh, you know, Sally jumped off a cliff doesn't mean I'm gonna jump off a cliff too. And this is why I always tell clients, make sure you buy a house that you can afford the payment, because it doesn't matter what the market does. You need somewhere to live. And whatever the market's gonna do is what it's gonna do. But if you're in Southern California, over time, you're gonna be fine. Your house might go down in value, might go up in value, it could do whatever. It's like having stocks.
Just ride the wave.
Ride the wave and make sure you can afford the payment. And as long as you can afford the payment, you can stay there, and you're gonna need to have a place to live.
Sure.
So when the market crashed, a lot of people were just foreclosing their houses and short selling because they're like, oh my God, I'm underwater, let me hurry up and get rid of the house. Instead of thinking long term, like, oh, you know, well, stuff might be fine later, right?
Yeah.
And I was watching everyone around me, and I thought, I worked all this time to try to get a credit score. I'm not ruining my credit. I mean, I just had to do all this work for the last 3 years to get a credit score. You know, I'm not ruining my credit. That seems stupid to me. I'm like, why would people do that? We still have to live here. So I just wrote it out. I didn't, you know, freak out about it, even though most of my neighbors were foreclosing and bringing my values down even more. Thanks, guys. But I did live there quite a while, and then I decided it was time to buy, because it was a townhouse. I decided my family had expanded. I was married at the time, and I ended up, you know, a lot of things happened in that house. I ended up having another child. I went and got my bachelor's degree, and so many things. And then I ended up getting married. So then I thought it was time to get a bigger house and rent that one out. Because
so you actively made the decision to be a landlord at that point.
I did.
Not sell it. You wanted to keep it so that you started your investment portfolio like you always talk about, correct?
Yeah, but I kind of skipped something. So at one point I was going to actually sell the house. And at that time I was the CFO of a healthcare auditing firm. I wasn't a real estate agent. And I was going to sell the house and buy a bigger house. So I hired an agent, and I got my house on the market. And then I started looking at a million homes, and my company got bought out by a bigger company, and they don't need multiple CFOs. So long story short, I ended up getting laid off while my house was on the market.
Scary.
Yeah, and it happens sometimes. You know, I've seen it happen to others. And I had a contingency that I had to find a home of choice in order to close. So the buyers that were of the house, they were trying to make me sell anyway, even though I couldn't buy anything else because I didn't know what I was going to do. Like, I didn't know. And this is actually how I ended up getting into real estate, but that was, I think, on the first show. So if you are interested in how I got into real estate, go on to my YouTube. The first show's there. No, it's not on YouTube. It's on my podcast, the first show. You can kind of get an idea about what got me into real estate. But anyways, we canceled, and so that was a whole experience there too. You know, it was stressful. We canceled. I didn't know where I was going to move to and all that. So
very unsure time.
Yeah. So we ended up staying there 3 more years or whatever after that.
So you were there a total of 11 years? We were there a total of 8 years?
8.
Okay. Got it.
Until 2016, I think.
Okay.
Or maybe 2015. But I ended up getting into real estate and doing really well. And then we decided, okay, it's time to get a bigger house. So
You weren't just doing really well. I remember this time you were killing it. And you're still killing it.
Yeah. I was the top agent in my office. I've been the top agent in my office every year except for the first year I joined.
You found your path. You found your calling.
Yeah, I love it. I love it a lot.
And I love that you, in turn, help other people find their path, especially in real estate.
I'm pretty sure that's what we're supposed to do in this life.
I agree with you.
So, okay, so I started looking for another house.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was going to do is, lease that one out. Because in order to qualify for the loan for both houses, I had to show that I was getting rent for that one. So not everybody needs to do that, but in that time I did, because I couldn't qualify to hold both houses at once. So I did that. Finding tenants was interesting. My first time finding tenants was very interesting.
How was your experience as being a landlord?
Good until COVID.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's probably a whole other show of, owning property during COVID and how that changed.
Guys. Landlords, I'm sorry for your luck right now. I love you guys. I feel you guys. And I ended up recently actually having to sell that property for $90,000 under value.
What?
Because the tenants hadn't paid me since April. And I knew that this whole moratorium thing was just going to keep getting pushed on. And even when they lift it, imagine what the courts are going to be like trying to evict people. So, and there's no programs really for landlords. So, in fact, actually, there are programs for landlords. I applied for it, and the tenants refused to fill out the paperwork unless I gave them a cut of the money.
What is that even legal?
Of course not. They were extorting me. So I just was so sick of it. And I'm going through, let's get, more personal TMI stuff. I'm in the midst of a divorce. I was just like, you know what? I'm not trying to deal with this crap. It's too much. And so I found a buyer who was willing to buy the property sight unseen with the tenant still in there, knowing that they weren't paying. So I had to take a huge hit on it, But like my friend reminded me, you're not a boss if you've never taken a loss. So
I love that phrase.
So all you guys out there who are stressed out about your tenants or you're having a hard time, give me a call. Let's get this thing sold. Let's cut our losses and invest it somewhere else or buy something else or just sit on the money for a little while. 800-440-7566 or hit me up on Instagram, CYRENE Properties. And let's talk about it because guys, I'm with you. I feel you. I get it. And some of us are lucky to have tenants. I have another rental property that has an amazing tenant in it, but we're not, when things get tough, people really show their true colors. And these guys weren't even trying to work it out with me. They changed the locks on the doors. They moved a dog in and more people. They're trashing the house. And
sounds like a nightmare.
Real estate nightmare story. Hey, here's our segment. Not even trying to have a segment. We just had a segment. So
what a story. I can't imagine how frustrating that would be in the process of you trust these people, these people living in most of the time, the people living in your property, and they are actively doing things to destroy it and not pay you.
Yes. And so I'll talk to a lot of people right now who are thinking, well, maybe I'll rent mine out and buy something else. And my advice is to really think hard about whether or not you want to be a landlord. Do you want people calling you, telling you the dryer's not working and stuff like that? Or, are you, and what can go wrong and how much? So for me, because, the money I made renting it out will never equal what they cost me.
But most of the time when you're a landlord, that isn't the case, correct? You're usually making more money than you're putting in, which is why you're renting the property to begin with.
Yeah, you shouldn't rent it if you're going to have negative cash flow, unless you're okay there. So certain investors, it depends on investors, what their goal is. So some investors, their goal is to have equity, to have, like, they find something that has value add, right? And they're okay with negative cash flow for a while. Some investors are looking just for, a good cap rate and positive cash flow. Now in California, our cap rates are a lot lower than some other states because we are very expensive here, right? But anyway, that's another show.
Okay. Yeah, so we might need to make this a part 2, but where we left off. We left off at you were buying a bigger home from the townhouse and you rented it out.
Yes, so I rented out the townhouse. Long story short, I rented out the townhouse. I found another house right down the street. For
a single family home.
Yeah, and I didn't really every time I moved, I really stayed within a few block radius. It was weird. I don't know why. I just kind of...
Well, easy for moving purposes.
Yeah. But I found another house and my ex-husband was like, hey, I hate it. And I'm like, no, we're buying it. And
he hated it?
Yeah. Well, and I was a real estate agent now, at this time. And he's like, I don't like this house and I hate it. And now he lives there and I don't own it anymore. So I'm not even going to go there. But
he doesn't hate it anymore.
Doesn't hate it anymore. No, got it set up nice for him. So we bought it and it was kind of a fixer, right? It was a light fixer, what we would call a light fixer.
So like cosmetic stuff.
Well, I mean, it needed a new kitchen. The bathroom vanities needed to be changed. Ceilings needed to be scraped. The floors need to be refinished. So I did a good amount of work on it when I bought it. I knocked out the kitchen. I put in, I did the recessed lighting, scraped the ceilings. The recessed lighting I didn't do right away, but the ceilings, the floors, and the kitchen I did before I moved in. Oh, wow.
Made a big difference.
It made a huge difference, but it was so stressful because it was just stressful because I'd never done it before. I'd never done that kind of thing before. Yeah, I'd never done it. But I'm glad that I did because it was a huge value add. I mean, the house at that time, this was 2016. We bought it for $513. It's worth about $800,000 now.
Wow.
And I also later on added what's called an ADU to the property, rented it out. That's being rented for $1,700 a month.
Wow.
The payment on the house is only $2,800. So that means that you're living in the house, your mortgage is essentially only $1,100 a month.
That's amazing. Where can you live out here in Los Angeles for that?
You can't, but I mean,
And ADUs, that's a whole nother subject.
That's another story.
Yeah, ADUs are the big deal now. You can really add some cash flow to your property by adding an ADU.
Yeah, well, and with COVID and everything, a lot of families are having to move in together and stuff. It's so helpful to have that so you guys have separate space.
So you know a lot about that, huh? The
I
ADUs. Do. They should call you.
They should, oh yeah. They should call me, 1-800-440-7566. 1-800-440-7566.
So I think we need to stop here and make a part 2. So this is part 1. We're going to leave off on just moving into your first single family home, and we'll come back to a part 2 because I love this story and I want to see where it goes because we're not near the end at all.
No, we're not. It's definitely not near the end, and I'm sorry I didn't.
No, this was so interesting.
I'm sorry if I talked too long.
No, it was so interesting and I really liked it. I really got to know you a little bit better and I appreciate that. So you can tell everyone to tune in next week and give us our wrap and all that stuff, and we'll see you soon. So go ahead, take it away.
All right, guys. Well, that's a wrap. Make it a great day, guys.